Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. How are you, Hannah, tonight?
I am well, and how are you?
I'm doing good. I feel like every time we do these, you're coming back from being out of town.
Right? It's so weird.
Yeah, so Hannah made her trip to Texas this past couple days and made it back safe. So we are here doing our next episode of Inside the Force. Andor's wrapped up and we're waiting on Bad Batch here in a few weeks. So got some downtime in a sense to kind of explore different stories and topics. So we'll get through the news here. Of course, talk about some announcements for the publications. And then we got an interesting kind of little topic I wanted to go over with Hannah here. And it's centered around Star Wars movies. So not the previous movies, possibly future movies. So we'll get there for that. First up, though, of course, thanks to our patrons, of course, that are contributing each and every month. We appreciate the support. If you're interested in going checking out our tiers, go to patreon.com/insidetheforce. Check those out. We've been putting up some for just patrons themselves because it's got a lot of exclusive video that we don't put on our YouTube channel here or on the podcast. A lot of reaction videos that we've got for the trailers. I actually just did last night, Hannah, I did a little behind the scenes video of my birthday present that I got.
That was an amazing gift.
It was an amazing gift.
Holy smokes.
Not expecting that at all. So if you want to know what that is, you got to go to Patreon. So again, thanks to our patrons. We appreciate that. And I've got some special things for you guys here, also coming up. So, all right. So, one news story that I wanted to kind of dive into, kind of briefed you on this just now, Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think most people out there that are following movies and news and stuff like that are seeing what's unfolding this week with DC and Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers has tasked the the big responsibilities of the DC universe to James Gunn and his partner, and I can't remember his last name. His partner's Peter something. I can't remember.
Weisbert something.
I think it starts with. I was looking it up, and I can't believe I forgot. I left it out. But anyway, James Gunn and his partner Peter are now running the DC universe. And they've talked about how they're laying out a plan for the next few years, very similar to, maybe not exact, but similar to what Marvel has done, right? I know some people are probably thinking, why are you talking about DC? This is a Star Wars thing. I'm getting there. So Peter and James are meeting with the executives at Warner Brothers right now to pitch their reboot, basically. And basically that's what's happening is they're rebooting the DC universe. They're going to create content, movies, TV shows, games that are all linked together, very similar to almost like Star Wars, a whole unified canon in a sense. So that means the actors portraying who they are no longer going to be that. Henry Cavill is not going to be Superman anymore. Ben Affleck's not going to be Batman anymore. Seems like Gal Gadot is not going to be Wonder Woman anymore, meaning that doesn't look like to be a Wonder Woman 3 anymore, meaning that Patty Jenkins, who was directing Rogue Squadron, left that project to go finish conceptualizing and making Wonder Woman 3, now has free time and should be coming back to Rogue One, because there is a statement out there about her saying that Rogue One is still very much in development.
Squadron.
I'm sorry, Rogue Squadron. What did I say?
Rogue One.
Did I say Rogue One? Okay. Rogue Squadron is very much in development still. Does that excite you anymore, Hannah, that we still could get Rogue Squadron.
I mean, I would love to get it. And I love the fact that we could get Patty to direct it. I mean, I'm all for female power, having a woman's perspective on Star Wars would be nice. I know we've seen a couple of Disney Plus series episodes that have been directed by women, but it would be great to get a movie that was like that. So, I mean, I'm game for it. I just want another Star Wars movie. Don't get me wrong. I love what Disney Plus is giving us TV series wise, but there's something about a Star Wars movie.
Yes. Agreed. Now, have you seen both the Wonder Woman movies she had done?
I had not seen the second movie. The first, I'm gonna get reamed for this, but I did not like Wonder Woman.
The first one.
Yep, I did not see the second one because I had no interest because I did not like the first one.
Okay.
But I still think Gal Gadot did a great job.
Yeah.
I still think Patty did a great job as a director. Just for me, story, I didn't like it.
Yeah. I really liked the first one. I thought it was when you were at the time, all we were getting really were Zack Snyder movies. So it was a different take, and I thought it was really well done. The second movie was horrible. 1984. I don't know how that. I don't know how that got made. To be honest, like it was really bad.
Bad, huh?
Yeah, and it was nothing. I don't know, because you still had obviously a hell of a cast. You had Gal Gadot. You even brought Chris Pine back. I mean, you had Pedro Pascal in the movie,
and Kristen Wiig, right?
Yeah, Kristen Wiig. I'm not really a Kristen Wiig fan.
You're talking to someone who, when she was like 50 pounds lighter, people would confuse her as Kristen Wiig on the streets.
Oh, yeah, I can see that a little bit. But I'm not a fan of her comedy, really.
Okay.
And putting a comedic actress in a role like that, and of course the whole Cheetah thing, it just really didn't work. Because Cheetah is really interesting in the comics, and I thought that was going to be a cool take, but it just fell apart. And what I had read, now of course I could completely be wrong. What I had read though was that that she had more creative control over the second movie than she did the first movie.
Oh,
Patty Jenkins, that is, right? So that's why I feel like some people have been a little hesitant about being excited for Rogue Squadron. Like, how much creative control does Patty Jenkins really have for that project? But I mean, dogfights are dogfights, right? I mean, if it's like a Top Gun in Star Wars, then I'm all for it. But it is what's the story? What's it about? What's things like that. We needed to find out, I think, before we kind of make that decision. Peter Safran actually is the other co-CEO of DC Studios now with James Gunn. So there's that. I think there's now a real possibility that Rogue Squadron could make it to the screen at some point. I think they're really behind on development, obviously. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much this shakes it up. She seems like she should be available now to do it. So if they're really going to do it, I think it's time to really get going on it.
Agreed. Absolutely. No time like the present.
Yeah. Okay. So more on that, really kind of what we're going to get into a little bit later. Today marks 5 years since The Last Jedi was released. Now, I don't know if I ever, did I ever do I have your take on The Last Jedi?
I think if it hasn't been on the podcast, it certainly has been at work.
Yes.
My loathing
for
The Last
what I thought.
Jedi.
Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. So you're not celebrating the 5-year anniversary.
Here's the thing. I feel like if The Last Jedi was its own movie, if it was outside the context of Star Wars in general, I think it would have been a fantastic movie.
Like if it was just a normal sci-fi movie?
If it was a normal sci-fi movie, I think it would have been well, maybe not fantastic. I think that's being a little too generous. It would have been a solid film.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that the abilities of the Force were definitely pushed beyond the boundaries that we'd never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we explored different aspects of like hyperspace and things like that we've never seen before.
Right.
But it doesn't fit. And it doesn't work with the characters. And it didn't. I'm going to stop right there. But so, no, I'm not celebrating, but yay, milestones.
Yeah. Unfortunately, just to remind everybody if they have, or maybe this is new for people that have joined the podcast since the 5 years, talking about it, that The Last Jedi was the one and only Star Wars movie that I walked out kind of shaking my head. Like, what did I just watch? Like, did I really just watch that?
Yes.
And it wasn't that I felt like it was bad. It really was just a sense of confusion. Like,
I was just about to ask, did you just feel confused?
Yes.
You're like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yes. I was very confused on a lot of things. Namely, like, where did that go? Mm-hmm. Why did they do that with this character? Why did they do that with this character? It's like, yes, there were some great moments in it, especially the throne room lightsaber fight. It was like one of the arguably the best in Star Wars. But it was just I don't know. It was, now, to be honest, I have come to like it a little bit more. Because I think Rise of Skywalker, seeing it completed, and then some of these stories that have come out, like Bloodline and now Shadow of the Sith, in a sense, have kind of justified some of it. But I mean, for me anyway. But it still ranks at the bottom of my Star Wars movies. But yeah, it just didn't make a lot of sense for me. And I will say this again, that I feel like it was odd doing the next movie and picking up right after the other movie ended, because you usually have kind of a reset with these movies and you have a time jump, and we catch up with our heroes, again, where they are. And that really kind of threw it all from the beginning, to be honest. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Yeah, it's
happy anniversary.
It's a movie.
It's a movie. It is a Star Wars movie. But I think forever it will be remembered as the movie that divided the fandom, to be honest.
Okay. Actually, that brings up a question, because I was talking with another one of our coworkers about this, because it's actually his favorite Star Wars movie.
Who's that?
Or one of his favorite. Zach.
Oh, right. Of course.
It's one of his favorites. So I just was like, why? Why do you love it so much? And, we talked about it, but it does bring up this question, because when Empire Strikes Back first came out, it divided the fandom. Some people loved it, some people hate it, and now it is arguably probably one of the best of the entire Skywalker saga. So my question is, do you think as time goes on, that's going to be the case for The Last Jedi?
No, because I think The Empire Strikes Back, I think when I think that the divide that you're talking about there, I think if anything, what everybody was divided over was Vader being his father.
I got you. Okay, so it wasn't necessarily because
I don't think the movie was confusing or bad, or like they were like, well, who the hell who's Lando and why do they like? I don't think there was any discussions about that, and of course Yoda was, everybody was kind of like surprised by who Yoda was and this whole mystery of the Force, and because that was the first. You gotta remember that was the first true introduction to the Force. Right? Like in the first movie, Obi-Wan talked about it and barely used it. I mean, he said, use the Force, Luke, when he was firing at the Death Star. But what does he really mean by what did he really do? Did he actually use the Force or did he just get lucky? Mm-hmm. But in Empire, I mean, he's training. He's lifting rocks. Yoda pulls the X-Wing out of the swamp. It's like, okay, now this just got magical and mythical. And that was everybody's first experience of that. So at least what I've read and heard that a lot of people were like, wait a minute, how the hell can Vader be his father? That is so crazy. But like you said, though, that quickly went away once Return of the Jedi came out. And it's like, okay, it makes sense. Empire is by far the best Star Wars movie, out there. I don't think that's the case with this because there are so many, not just one aspect of it or two aspects of it. I think there's confusion, at least when I watched it, there was confusion where Rey was going. There was confusion where Kylo was going. There was confusion where Luke was doing, how Luke was portrayed.
Even when it's bad when your actor who plays this iconic character and is arguably known for that character above all other characters, says, what the heck is this? Yes.
Doesn't agree with the direction for sure. So I think people that do not like it, like yourself and me, like, I don't think there's anything that will make us change our mind. I really don't. Like the movie's done, the trilogy's done. If Rise didn't do it, what else can? I mean,
the books, the comics, TV shows.
No, I don't think so. I don't know what you can.
I agree with you. I don't know what you could
do. Yeah,
but
I mean, Rise of Skywalker. I don't know. There's obviously some divide there too, because a lot of people didn't like that movie either.
Usually it's the people who did not like The Last Jedi liked Rise of Skywalker, and then also vice versa.
Yes. Totally agree. Totally agree with that. Yeah. So, I think the sequel trilogy unfortunately divided the fandom, but also made Lucasfilm rethink their strategy of movies, unfortunately. So, which we can talk about a little bit here in a second, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think. I think it's it's very. I guess kind of similar, but I don't know if maybe you think this too. But like, I feel like the prequels have gotten more popular.
Oh, definitely.
Now, how did you felt okay? Did you feel okay about the prequels when they came out?
Oh, when they came out, honestly, like some people grew up with the prequels.
Yeah.
I didn't really get into Star Wars until I was in middle school. So I think at that point, Revenge of the Sith was just about to come out in theaters.
That was 2005.
Yeah, I was in middle school. So it was right before that was when I started watching all of Star Wars.
You were in middle school in 2005?
I graduated high school in 2011, dude. I'm turning 30 in January.
Wow.
I'm a 90s kid.
You are a 90s kid, yeah.
I'm a 90s kid. So I didn't grow up with like Jar Jar Binks. So when I saw which actually is very interesting because one of my dearest friends, she's a huge Star Wars nerd as well. She and I were talking. I'm like, Jar Jar Binks was always so annoying and blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, did you watch Jar Jar Binks when it first came out, when Phantom Menace first came out? I said, well, no. And she said, well, I did. And I think at that point we would have been in elementary school. So to her, she always has a soft spot for Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah. So does Casey, who was young too then.
Yeah. So
he grew up with the prequels. Yeah.
So I think that's a huge part of it as well.
Yeah.
So for me, I've always been like, ugh, the prequels are pretty bad. But then after the sequels came out, it was like, oh, the prequels actually don't look that bad anymore.
Yeah. Well, I had always been a fan of the prequels. I was an older generation, obviously. This is a good reason why I think we do well with this show, because we are two different generations in the sense of, because I'm a 80s kid, really. Mm-hmm. And I was in college when The Phantom Menace came out. So I was that generation. I was even slightly behind the generation that was introduced to Star Wars in the 70s, right? I didn't watch Star Wars in the 70s. I was born the year it came out. So I didn't watch until the early 80s when Return of the Jedi came out. So I was about 6 years behind everybody else that said that Star Wars changed their lives, about when they saw it and wanted to become filmmakers and stuff like that. So when the prequels came out, again, at that point I was really kind of part of that generation, because I was the generation that grew up with it in the 80s. And, waiting 16, 17 years to get another Star Wars movie. I remember going into Phantom Menace, and I don't know if we talked about this, but I remember going into Phantom Menace the night that it opened at midnight. And I remember walking out of that movie, just ecstatic that I saw a Star Wars movie, but I was very conscious that it wasn't the same Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, there was this expectation that it was going to look and feel exactly like the original trilogy. But it didn't, because it was newer, right? Newer cameras, newer technology, CG. But I loved what I saw. And when you see them together, 1, 2, and 3, it makes sense. It's Star Wars, but it has its own unique style and look, as far as like the technology and the camera work and stuff like that. So, but anyway, no, I loved them, but I even fell in love with them even more once the Clone Wars came out. That's what really, I think, heightened the movies for me, was seeing what happened in the Clone Wars in between 2 and 3 and stuff like that. And then, of course, now knowing more of like Tales of the Jedi and knowing more about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. And it's just like those stories have really, and I think that's what's making them a little more popular now, is because your generation that grew up with them are now seeing all these other stories around it. And it's kind of reminding you of like what you grew up with. And I just think that, I think that has become more popular and will continue to be more popular, way more than The Last Jedi will ever be, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know what. No, I completely agree with that, and I think there is something to say about the Clone Wars and all of that, because if you truly sit down and think about it, besides something like Shadow of the Sith, what could you truly do with the sequels? Like, the only thing I could see
to heighten them, you mean?
To heighten them. The only thing I could see you doing is something in between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, where we see Leia truly training Rey, where we get, which was, I really wanted this so bad, get like a buddy cop TV show between Poe and Finn.
Yeah.
Like, that would be fantastic. But outside of that, and I think you made an excellent point in the sense of, between every other Star Wars film, there's a gap. There's a gap in time.
Yes. For
there to be growth in one way or another. And we didn't get that between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi.
Yep.
So
we needed that middle story. Yes.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what else you could do to heighten the the
And
sequel.
that's really good. I like that idea about Leia and Rey because I think, because to be honest, and I don't know if anybody else felt like this way. I never mentioned this, and I don't think I heard anybody say this, but when I watched the Rise of Skywalker first and walked out of that movie, it actually didn't dawn on me till later that Leia had trained her this past year.
Really?
Well, no, because in the movie, there's nothing in there that says that she has been doing that.
I thought that Rey like says something like I've been
She calls her master. She calls her master, and that's
maybe that's like the jump I made was, oh, master, therefore she trained her.
Yes, but I didn't get the sense that she had been doing it the whole time. And
okay.
But now obviously again after I thought about it and and then of course at the end you kind of get when you watch the Last Jedi again at the very end of that, she's like, we have all that we need, and she's kind of basically referring that I can train you. But the thing about it is when you're watching that movie and you get the flashback of Leia and Luke, like Leia didn't complete her training. So how does she have what it takes to actually train Rey? I get it that she's Leia. She's a Skywalker. She can do it. But she had not been a Jedi for 30 years.
I honestly think it had to deal with more of the connection side of the Force because we haven't gotten to this yet in Beyond the Saga. But in the Leia book, we see that Leia does have a natural connection to the Force.
She does. Yes, totally.
So I think it's more or less of helping Rey form this connection because Rey, and this is the part of the Force Awakens that made me go, are you kidding me? Was that Rey was automatically connected with the Force. She automatically knew how to use a lightsaber perfectly. Without any training. Yeah. So to me, because we already established that, I feel like the training was more or less of Leia helping guide her through her connection with the Force. Rey already had the talent and the gifts of using a lightsaber in combat and all that. She just needed better connection to the Force.
Yeah, and that's why I think there would be something there if they did either like a I don't know, a short story or a comic or something like that, or even an animated series of like Leia and Rey, and that would be pretty neat. I think that would be pretty awesome.
It could be very similar to what they did with Legend of Korra after Avatar: The Last Airbender, because in Legend of Korra immediately, without even thinking about it, conquers waterbending, firebending, and earthbending. No problem whatsoever. Like she's just a natural at those. But she struggles with airbending because that deals a lot with like calmness and chi and meditation. And so you could easily do something like that with Leia and Rey, where Rey has to learn to really like kind of settle in the Force, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that would be incredible. And, yeah, I just, and it goes back to, honestly, it goes back to, again, like JJ. I love JJ and I love the way he does movies, but, JJ usually has in his movies, he has these moments. And there was a moment there where Rey and Leia embrace, and of course, the whole significance of Leia not even really being there, Carrie not really being there. But I was kind of lost, and I was not lost, but I wasn't as into that moment because I felt like there needed a little bit more of them together as far as training. Like, when we see her, she just kind of falls down because she can't. She's trying to talk to the ghost, and she doesn't. She comes down. Leia says, "You'll get it," and then she goes, "Well, I'm going to go run the training course." Instead of doing the training course, it would have been nice to see like some of that teaching right then, right? A little more of the connection. But I get it. You couldn't do it because Carrie wasn't even around. But you could have tried something. I think. I just didn't really make the connection right off the bat that they had been doing this for a year, because that's the thing too, is there is a year gap between 8 and 9.
Yeah.
So
I just think J.J. Abrams was given he was dealt an awful hand, and he had to work with some pretty bad situations there.
Agreed. Okay. Anyway, happy anniversary, The Last Jedi. If you like the movie, go watch it.
Woo.
Some cool news. There's some, award seasons coming up, first of the year. Some recognitions have been going on with Andor. And probably the biggest recognition right now that just got talked about is Diego Luna has been nominated for Best Actor for the Golden Globes.
Good for him.
Pretty incredible. Yes.
Is that the first time a Star Wars character, like an actor who's portrayed a Star Wars character, been nominated for that role?
Good question. It's actually the second time an actor has been nominated for a big award. In fact, I think it's just the Globes is the highest. I don't think an actor's been obviously an Oscar. Alec Guinness was nominated for a Golden Globe for the original Star Wars movie.
Of course he was.
So think about that. Wow. 45 years. It took 45 years for another Star Wars actor to be nominated for a Golden Globe.
Wow.
Yes. Good. Yep. Congratulations, Diego. He's got some stiff competition, but, hopefully he can pull it out.
That would be quite the milestone for Star Wars if he did win.
I totally agree. Now, I think there's the Critics' Choice Awards.
Yes.
He was also nominated for that, and then the series was actually nominated for Best Drama Series.
Good.
For that, but it didn't make the Globes. So
it's Star Wars.
Yeah, we'll see.
You kind of don't expect it to make it in those categories.
Not at all. I think the awards show is in January, so we'll see. And then obviously just a quick friendly reminder that coming January 4th, The Bad Batch debuts.
Yes.
Don't forget, mark your calendars. Okay, so other releases coming up as always on the publishing side, The Battle of Jeddah for the High Republic, January 3rd. That's the audio drama. Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars comes out March 7th. High Republic Cataclysm, April 4th. High Republic Path of Vengeance, May 2nd. Inquisitor, Rise of the Red Blade, July 18th. On the comic side, next week, you got Bounty Hunters 29. And actually, no, this was yesterday. Bounty Hunters 29, Mandalorian number 6. Next week, there isn't any Star Wars comics. And then the Wednesday after Christmas, you've got Dr. Aphra 27, Han Solo and Chewbacca number 8, High Republic number 3, Yoda number 2, and High Republic The Blade number 1, and short run series for that. Those are all on December 28th. As we finish out the year and get into 2023. Oh my goodness.
Whew.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this briefly because I want to just, highlight some things. This may spark some more comments from our listeners and thoughts. But I was kind of thinking, I'll set this up this way, Hannah. And we just talked about The Last Jedi a little bit. Rian Johnson obviously wrote and directed that movie. Obviously, a lot of people hate it. A lot of people like it. You got JJ, who directed two of the other two movies, 7 and 9. You have Gareth Edwards, who came in and directed Rogue One. You have Ron Howard that came in and stepped in after Chris Lord and Chris Miller and Phil Lord left Solo. Ron Howard came in and stepped in and directed that. Then, of course, you have names floating around, like we said, Patty Jenkins and Taika Waititi. You have Benioff and Weiss that were the Game of Thrones guys that were tied to doing movies. They moved on to their Netflix deal. You've got other names that have been popped up, here and there. Lucasfilm has kind of prided themselves saying that they're, getting the best in the business to help with these with these movies, especially the movies. But I just got to thinking, like, I get it. You want a director that has been just kind of slaying it in the box office and everybody's talking about, right? I mean, they like, besides The Last Jedi, like Rian Johnson makes really good movies.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I love Knives Out. I loved Brick. I don't know if you ever saw one of his first movies, Brick.
I don't think I saw Brick.
Crazy good. Looper was fantastic.
Yes.
So obviously when he was picked to do it, everybody's like, wow, this is awesome. Maybe it didn't work out for some people. JJ, like I said, I fell in love with JJ when I saw Super 8. Loved Super 8. Honestly, I'm not a Star Trek fan. I loved the first Star Trek movie that he did.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. And especially the first scene, and this is what I mean by moments. That first scene with Chris Helmsworth being Kirk's father, like, wow, what a way to start a movie, right? I mean, I'm crying like in the first 5 minutes. Super 8 was kind of the same thing. That hit home to me because, I had lost my mother when I was younger. And the moment with him and his father at the end, and, it's like, it nothing to do with the monster. It was really that story between the father and the son. And I loved those moments. I felt like he had opportunities in his Star Wars movies for moments like that. And I just never saw them. I loved how he directs, and I love his camera work and things like that. But there were times where I felt like he missed those moments to make me draw me in a little bit more. So, long story short, I appreciate looking for really up and coming, and maybe even some popular. Like right now, Taika is popular, right? So let's get Taika to do a Star Wars movie. And say what you want about Taika movies, like obviously the ones that he's known for right now are the Thor movies. But I'm starting to lean, I don't know where you are, and that's why I wanted to ask you. I'm starting to lean more towards, I actually really just want a really, and pardon my French, a really kick-ass action movie. Like, okay. I just want a straight up, give me a what they call mindless action movie. Like, I don't have to think a lot. I just want to see some crazy action. And some of my favorite movies, just real quick on some action movies, right? And I don't know if you've seen some of these, but and they were made. Most of them were made by the very late. Sorry, he's passed, but the very late Tony Scott. Freaking love Tony Scott movies. And I'm talking about movies like Beverly Hills Cop. He did Days of Thunder. He did Top Gun, obviously the first Top Gun. He did a movie that I completely love called Man on Fire. He did The Last Boy Scout that a lot of people haven't seen. He did True Romance that was written by Quentin Tarantino. I mean, and I love his style. I freaking love his style. Unfortunately, he's not around to do another movie. So I started thinking about other action movies but so before I get into my directors or people that what do you think about what I'm talking about right now? Where are you at with what you would see in a Star Wars movie or want to see?
I want to see something different.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Like Taika Waititi, I love that guy. I loved Jojo Rabbit. It's one of my favorite movies of all times. Thor Ragnarok made me love Thor again. So I would love for him to, keep something a little lighter and do a buddy cop movie between Finn and Poe. Like, come on. Like, there's not a better formula out there.
So you basically want a comedy movie.
I would love to have a comedy, a Star Wars comedy. But then I wonder, well, what would Star Wars be like if we got a little bit into the horror, fantastical genre? What if Guillermo del Toro did a movie about Darth Bane? Like, how cool
That
could
would
that
be pretty dang cool. That would be pretty dang cool, actually.
And then I understand what you're saying about action, but I want some story with that action. I don't want mindless action. I want Peter Jackson to do a movie or a trilogy based off of the video game Knights of the Old Republic surrounding Darth Revan.
Yeah, okay.
Because
I think Peter would be good at that, yes, for sure.
Because he could do an epic, but he can have those moments. He can have a solid story, but you still get your, as you put it, kick-ass moments of action.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sorry, Aragorn. Whew.
Yeah. But I agree, and I think your assessment of like Peter Jackson, I think, he is I feel like he is definitely more of a storyteller first.
Yes.
That includes some action in his storytelling. Like, I completely see that. So I agree. Yes, there would probably be a more deeper story there. There would probably be a lot more dialogue than some of the people that I'm about to name.
Anyway, those are my top three. Those are my three wants.
So Guillermo, Peter, and Taika. Okay. Here's the thing: is I really, and I think it's unfortunate. I don't think. Well, I won't say that. At least right now, I don't think that Star Wars will ever really go comedy.
I know they won't. That's why I'm saying it would be great. But
yeah. I only think that they possibly could, maybe on the Disney Plus side.
Okay.
I think there's an opportunity there. And maybe, part of it, and a lot of people do think this way. I don't know, maybe you do, but a lot of people feel like that, what Chris Miller and Phil Lord were doing with Solo might have been better because it was kind of leaning more towards that comedic movie versus what we end up getting. Because look, I think we talked about this. I love Solo.
Love Solo.
I love Ron Howard. I think he's a fantastic director.
Yes.
So I love how it turned out. But I am kind of curious where Lord and Miller were going with it. They had just come off the Lego movie, which was awesome. Right? Yes.
Like that is one of my favorite movies of all time is the Lego movie. Absolutely.
So I am curious what their take was. And would they be good for a comedic Star Wars movie? Taika's comedy. I do like the comedy. For me, it doesn't really fit with the Thor character. And I think Love and Thunder went way too far.
I haven't seen Love and Thunder, so
I think, yeah.
Say no more.
Yeah, I won't say anymore. But I do like Taika. I do like his comedic role. Have you seen Free Guy?
I love Free Guy.
I love
that movie so much.
I love Taika in that movie.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah. He's fantastic. Anyway, okay, good. Those are your three. Well, I got five people that I would actually really love to see make a Star Wars movie.
Okay.
And honestly, the top of my list, which a lot of people I know I'm going to probably I might get some hate for this.
If you say Michael Bay,
I am going to say Michael Bay.
Why?
I'm going to say Michael Bay. Michael Bay.
Well, okay, you want mindless action.
Well, yes, because if you look at any list out there, and I Googled some lists, if you look at any list out there for best action movies, best action directors, he's on the top of every list. Now, again, you may argue that his movies aren't that good, but there's no denying his directing style and his directing of action. It is ridiculous where he puts cameras and how he makes movies.
It's very much like McDonald's, where you don't even need a label on it. You just see it and you know it's Michael Bay.
100%. Yeah. And I could do that with Tony Scott. Like with Tony Scott, but Tony Scott, had a lot of great story in his movies. Like, do you ever see Man on Fire with Denzel?
I did not.
That is one of my top 5 movies of all time. It is incredibly, the story's there, but the directing style is so unique. And it's just incredible. I would highly recommend that movie for you and the hubby to watch.
I'll add it to the list.
Yeah. I love that movie. But you know, with Peter, it's like, or with Michael Bay, you know, again, he gained popularity in the 90s when he was coming out with like Armageddon, and the Bad Boys movies and stuff like that. And then of course you get later on the Transformer movies, put him on the map. I actually just watched the movie Ambulance that came out with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yes. How was that, by the way?
Again, incredible action story. You know, it's okay. But man, I like watching the action of a Michael Bay movie. I do. I'm sorry. So would I see like, and I wouldn't want a like force driven movie, like a Jedi movie by him. Right. I would want like a car chase or a dog fight. Like if Rogue Squadron was directed by Michael Bay, like I'd be so more excited for it, to be honest.
Now, would you be open to, because like, I mean, once again, you said I want to see like a mindless action Star Wars movie. Would you be opposed if Michael Bay were to team up with someone who did focus more on story, but then Michael took over the action scenes?
Well, I mean, are you meaning like someone else write the movie and then he direct it?
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, I think Michael would, I think if let me take that back, because the problem with that is that when you have really good, to me in a way, when you have really good story driven movies, you've got a lot of dialogue and less action. He doesn't really shoot dialogue really well.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, it's because he always has that action sense in his mind. So he's always doing shots where he's like going around the people, or he's like moving in. There's a lot of movement still, even when there's like just dialogue going on, and you kind of get like jarred almost a little bit. So you're just waiting for, okay, let's stop talking. Let's get the movie and the action going, right? What if,
because I feel like this would be right up his alley. Like you said, little dialogue, a lot of action. What if you did a movie that took place during Order 66?
Now, yes, that would be
and
pretty
you're
awesome.
Following a Padawan trying to survive.
Yes. Yeah, he would kill that movie, I think. He would. That would be an incredible movie to watch, in my opinion. Yes.
Absolutely.
Especially if you were following the squadron hunting down that Jedi. Like, yes. That would be pretty awesome.
That would be cool. That, or you get the Empire side when one of the Death Stars is being blown up.
Yes. Yeah. See, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, you're on it. One other name. Now, again, I know people hate this guy. I like Zack Snyder.
Oh, he's great.
I love his directing style. So I would like to see a Zack Snyder movie. And now these three names might be a little surprising because they're not totally household names. They should be well known to most people. But these are strictly directing styles that I like. That they're kind of Michael Bay-ish, but they are better storytellers, I feel like. One of them is Peter Berg. I don't know if you know Peter Berg, but
his name's familiar. What has he done?
He was more the movie that I came to love him in was Friday Night Lights. And he did Lone Survivor with Mark Wahlberg. Yeah. He did Patriot Day with Mark Wahlberg. I don't know if you've seen Patriot Day. Patriot Day is an incredible movie. That was about
I
the
haven't
Boston.
seen Patriot Day, but I love The Lone Survivor.
Lone Survivor is fantastic.
Oh
But
my
anyway,
gosh.
but he's one of those that does a lot of shoulder cam. Like he does a lot of move. You know, a lot of people sometimes don't like that movement, but his is a lot of free, like just a lot of over the shoulder carrying the camera. Even during sit down dialogues, it's always floating, and I really like that style. Style. So I think there would be something there with that. And he's more of a drama director. So even though but he does action scenes really well too. Another one kind of in that vein is Paul Greengrass. He did the Bourne movies.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
He did Bourne Ultimatum, Bourne Supremacy, Jason Bourne, the last one. I think he did United 93, if you saw that 9/11 movie with
I did not.
United 93, which is really good. But he's got the same kind of Peter Berg style where it's a lot of shoulder cam, a lot of handheld, a lot of fast cuts during his action scenes, you know. And then the other person is a woman, which I would love to see do Star Wars, like you said. Catherine Bigelow, who did Hurt Locker and who did Zero Dark 30, the Osama bin Laden, fantastic director. She is unbelievable. I think Hurt Locker is one of the best movies out there. Would love to see her do an action type drama Star Wars movie. So that's my short list in a way.
Yes.
And it's based on nothing but my love of what they have done in cinema. It's not like, my opinion of what's hot out there with some of these guys, because some of these guys haven't made a movie in a while. Greengrass and Berg, they're doing more producing now, not directing. And Catherine, I don't think has done a movie in a couple of years too. So, but yeah, I love to see those type of Star Wars movies like that. Like that would be, because right now I just don't think, even with the TV shows, even with the Disney Plus stuff, I don't think. I tell you what, like Andor was the first one that I felt like there was a step up in the cinematography and the way the camera was placed and the thought process of that. Like, I feel like with Book of Boba Fett, with even Mandalorian, like I feel like the camera is just kind of there, and it's more about what you're seeing versus how you're trying to tell the story through the lens. You know what I mean by that? You know what I mean by that, right?
I know exactly what you mean. And I almost wonder, like, are you looking for something that's more like a war film? Because like those last couple of directors you named, they all did a war-esque type of film. So would you want that? Would you want obviously not necessarily like a Jedi war or something like that, but following a group of troopers through basic camp, seeing how they're brainwashed, seeing how, they're doing their thing as soldiers.
I think that would be cool. Yeah, I think that. I think anything that's, how do I say it? Like a little more personal, I think.
A little more realistic, I feel like, is what you want. You want like that real documentary type of.
Yeah, I think like Andor gets there a little bit. I feel like, because it is this personal journey that we're witnessing, but even more so, I think something in a movie like that where you've got to get attached to a character right away. And for example, like I'll keep going back to Man on Fire, like. Denzel, and I'm like, I won't spoil it for you or anything like that, but Denzel, like, man, right away after the first act gets done and you really get into the heart of the movie, like right away, you are rooting for this guy and you are behind this guy and you feel what he's feeling. And the whole movie, you're just on your edge of your seat, like, yes, do what you're doing, man. all the way to the end. It's so incredible. It's unbelievable how much it draws you in. And then not only his story draws you in, but the way the camera is, the way it's edited. It's so, I'm telling you, I think you would really like the movie. And it's like, as an editor, because I saw it when I was an editor, when I was kind of working editor as a full-time job. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, that took some thought, like how they cut it together. Because there's times where he'll just throw text on the screen, like as they're speaking. And it's kind of weird at first, but you're like, wow, that works. Anyway, it's really good. And that's what I mean. Like, I really want to get a story that you're drawn into, but you're also drawn in by how it's shown and edited. And I just don't think we get that with Star Wars yet. Like, we just haven't had that. Like, I feel like it's very kind of, you know what I mean? Very kind of normal filmmaking in a sense.
I wonder if that's why some people don't want to give it a chance, because they watch it and it's just they're subconsciously feeling like it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
because 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 you go through Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan and Andor, and it's like, it's good stories, but it doesn't really stand out like as a uniqueness to it, from, and it's hard because the problem with that is that you have different directors, right?
Right.
So you can't really stick with the style. Now, Obi-Wan had just one, Deborah Chow. So interesting that she didn't really, but that's her style. If that's her style, that's her style, But I feel like if you give Paul Greengrass or Catherine Bigelow a whole series, like I think there would be a step up in that, or a movie.
Or Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
That's the opposite direction of what we're looking for.
That is completely the opposite. Yeah.
It's different.
It's very different. Yeah. I would be very, I'm not a fan really of his movies.
Not really.
Yeah. Okay, good. Anyway, I think that's an interesting discussion. Interesting thought process of movies of different styles like that. I mean, it ain't that much similar to what they did with, to be honest, it's not that similar to what they did with Star Wars Visions, where they gave studios an opportunity to make different style of Star Wars animations.
That was fantastic.
Right? Yeah. So why not? Let's do some different style Star Wars movies,
Yeah. Let's do a claymation Star Wars movie.
Claymation. Wow.
Muppets Star Wars.
Yeah. They're doing Lego Star Wars, so.
Yeah.
All right. So let's mention some comments.
All right.
I think we missed last week. Is that right? I think we did.
So.
I think we skipped over some of these. So let's see. I'm pulling from our YouTube channel here. A couple weeks ago, before the finale of Andor, let's see. JoJo says, once again, great episode. Can't wait for the last one. And then Thrawn Addict on that same one says, great review. Thanks, guys. You are both selling me on Luthien being a Jedi now. Would also make sense because his disguise is an antiques dealer, so he could have been a Jedi that explores artifacts and cultures, and that's why he's very knowledgeable about the items in his store. Really looking forward to the finale. Thanks again.
That's a great insight, because we see that in Shadow of the Sith.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes. Let's see. We got Jared Strandon. That's your handle on Grant 9870. A lot long handle there. Just says great podcast as always. Have a great weekend from over in the UK. So thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Yeah. Another on our High Republic Beyond the Saga. Townsef6339 says great video. Found it late, but really enjoyed it. So thanks for that. Let's see. Thrawn Addict on our Master and Apprentice Beyond the Saga says this was a great book. Anything Claudia Gray does is gold, in my opinion. We don't get many stories pre-Phantom Menace, so it was fantastic to read. I want more Qui-Gon Jinn stories because I found him to be one of the most intriguing Jedi and would love to know more about his past and maybe more of his apprenticeship with Count Dooku. Agreed. I think we talked about that a lot. And then our last episode, Hannah, our buddy Martin Donison over there, Cyber Tiger, says,
hey, Martin.
Yes, says, hey guys, it's Cyber Ren here. Wanted to add my thoughts to your discussion about movie release schedules. I'm torn between two different feelings on it. First, we can't forget that there was a time when we waited almost 20 years before getting another movie after the original trilogy. So we really can't be picky now that it takes 2 to 5 years. But with Disney taking over all the money they have, along with the popularity of Star Wars, I'm with the idea that they can do one a year easy. As you said, Marvel is pumping out at least 2 a year, and so does Pixar. I don't need 2 Star Wars films a year. 1 a year would be just fine with me to allow enough time to polish it, move out, and put it out, and to put out something fantastic. Quality over quantity, any given day, hands down. Solo got screwed by releasing a few months after The Last Jedi. But I would also be okay waiting 3 to 5 years for one as well, just like we did for the original trilogy. That builds way more anticipation and excitement. Also, to add to the discussion about Padawan surviving Order 66 and not so many Masters, I don't think that's weird at all. Masters are far more well-known and recognizable, whereas Padawans are easily hidden, disguised, off on errands, missions, etc., and could easily be missed if for nothing other than the clones simply don't know them all. And there you go.
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
And all they have to do is just kind of cut off their braid and boom, they're just a normal person.
Normal kid. Yep.
It's a very good thought.
Very true. Yeah, and I'm not with you. I can't wait 3 to 5 years for Star Wars movies. No way. No way. That's too long. Jojo says great episode on our last episode. And then Thrawn Attic comes in again saying great discussion. I'm torn because I want and love lots of Star Wars content, but at the same time, I don't want them to bring so much out that the quality is not as good. I think Marvel were doing really well with 3 films a year before Avengers Endgame, but after that, trying to do 3 films a year plus TV shows is a bit too much. I think you went there, Hannah. I'm happy with 2 to 3 Star Wars a year, but want them to be good quality and not just making something to fill content on Disney Plus. I feel the Star Wars shows have been a lot better than Marvel shows so far, so let's hope that they keep that up. And I've said before, I want more movies, but I don't want 2 to 3 years or even 1 year. 1 a year. 1 movie every 2 to 3 years is good enough as long as Disney has a plan, unlike they did for the sequel trilogy. So, yeah, I'm not 2 to 3 years either. I want one. I want 1 a year. 1 a year is good enough, and only because it's not the same team making each movie.
Right.
They can be making 2 movies at the same time.
Yeah.
Put one out 1 year,
teams.
put one out the next year, whatever, so.
Well, I think one thing that we all can agree on is we would rather have quality over quantity.
Agreed. Totally agree. Yes. Definitely quality over quantity. And then actually Thrawn comes back with another comment, just says, already pre-ordered Jedi Survivor game. Can't wait. Also, finally got a VR for my PS5 and played Vader Immortal.
Ooh.
Which was a lot of fun. I know you kept talking about it, so I had to play it. Yes. And I actually replied on YouTube and said, now he's got to try Tales from Galaxy's Edge, which is the VR game.
Yes.
Freaking awesome. Have you done any of those yet?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
But you've told me so much about it.
Yeah, I need to get you need to get some experience on that because it is ridiculously good. It's incredible. So, all right. I think that'll do it, Hannah.
Woohoo.
Great episode. Great talk.
Yes. Excellent talk.
Yeah, as we always say, thank you to our patrons. And if you're interested in joining Patreon and looking at our tiers, go to Inside the Force on Patreon. Of course, come back here on the podcast feed, anywhere on the podcast feed to get our weekly show, Inside the Force. A couple bonus episodes here and there, but all of our shows you could find on YouTube at Inside the Force as well. Got some content coming out from there. Me and Hannah got a lot of Beyond the Sagas to get to. Would you just finish up Leia, I think, right?
Finished
Princess
up
Leia.
Leia, yeah, and you just finished up Princess and the Scoundrel, right?
Yes. So we're ready to do those, and we've got some comics to go over, so come back for that. And then, of course, check out the Mandalore podcast when these Disney Plus shows are coming out. Me and Martin Donison over there kind of do our deep dives into every episode there. And then come back here for Hannah's take on all of our shows as well. Of course, we're going to do some reaction videos to these episodes as well as they come out. So, but you got to be on Patreon to get those. Yeah. Go check it out on there. All right, Hannah. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Dave.
I mean, and then I guess you're good next week, I guess, right before the holidays. Are you good to do a show or what?
Should be.
Yeah. I don't know what you're doing. We'll talk about it, but you should be able to get a show. We should be able to get a show in sometime next week. And then hope everybody has look forward to the holidays. And I am looking definitely forward to the holidays, spending some much needed rest and relaxation.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you next week. May the Force be with you.